Welcome back, Canisius High School community. It's Andy Deyell, your Vice President for Institutional Advancement, back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius. And today we are joined by a very special guest, all the way from New York City, Tom Fontana, legendary three-time Emmy Award-winning television writer and producer from the class of 1969. Tom, how are you?
Well, I'm from the class of 69 and I'm still standing. So that's a miracle unto itself.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. We just have a few minutes to catch up, and there's so much we could go over. But what I'd like to start with is just take us back in time a few years to when you were a middle school student and you were thinking about high school. What brought you to Canisius High School?
Well, I'll tell you, I went to Cathedral School down the block, which is now the Catholic Academy, and that was our parish. And my father was the rowing coach at Canisius for a long, long time, and then he moved over to the college for a long, long time. Anyway, when I was getting ready to go to high school, I wanted to go to Bishop Fallon, which was a diocesan high school over on, I think, Main Street, that all my friends were going to. All the guys from Cathedral were going to. And my father said, absolutely not, you're going to Canisius. And I said, Canisius? No, I want to go to Fallon. And anyway, my father was my father, and I did what I was told, and I am eternally grateful to him. Not that Fallon was a bad school or anything like that, but what I gained going to Canisius, I had no idea at the time what I needed to learn about myself and about life. So I did thank him. I waited until I graduated to thank him, but I did thank my father for having the wisdom to force me to go to Canisius High School.
And when you were at Canisius, who were some of your influences on the faculty, and what kind of activities were you involved in?
Well, I was one of the editors of the Citadel, and I was on the swim team. And one of the big influences on my life was the swim coach, Paul Lamb, who's been gone a long, long time. He actually died while we were in high school. And he taught me about fear, and not how to be afraid, but how not to be afraid, and why not to be afraid, and the control that you can maintain in your life if you don't let fear take over. That you either believe or you're afraid. Because I think people who have a clear sense of God, that they have a protection from fear. So I've been very blessed my whole life and grateful to Mr. Lamb for teaching me that lesson. And the way he taught me was by swimming. You know what I mean? About
Sure.
What you could do with the water, that the water wasn't going to kill you. Being careless or being stupid would kill you in the water. And that was a huge lesson. I also, I'll tell you, I have to admit, I was not the greatest high school student. Not that I didn't try, I really did try. But I was just, especially freshman year, I was just completely drowning. And there were many Jesuits there at the time, and they were Father Rohr and Mr. Popeye, who later became Father Popeye and then became the principal. People like that who understood that I needed encouragement. And because I was trying as hard as I was trying, you know what I'm saying? They knew that I was really, really trying. I just was stupid. And so it was great to know that I wasn't going to be humiliated or mocked or diminished, you know. And then I would say the other thing is, you know, Father Sturm, the legendary Father Sturm, and I think from him and from all the teachers and all the faculty in the school, I learned about discipline. And I can't tell you how that has served me my entire life. I get up every morning at 5 a.m. to write, and I've been doing this. I'm 69, and I've been doing this for 50 some years, and I've gotten up hungover. I've gotten up with the flu. I've gotten up where I only slept an hour. And I get up every day and I write, because that's the thing, that's what I've been given. That's the gift that I've been given. And I can't, you know, I don't want to waste it by indulging myself. So I force myself to get up at 5 a.m. Some days it's really hard. And some days I'm like bouncing because I'm so excited about what I'm going to write that day. But yeah, I would say being fearless and being disciplined, and also compassionate toward people who are maybe struggling, are the three things that I learned.
And you mentioned just a moment ago, you know, your writing and sort of how you fell into that pattern of getting up so early. When did you realize? I understand from, you know, reading about you that you were writing plays and doing things for a very young age, but when did you start moving into writing for television?
Well, I came to New York to be a playwright, and at which, again, I have to thank my parents, because I would not have survived. I was a lousy playwright, and I couldn't make any money at it. But I got a lucky break, and I was having a play done up in the Williamstown Theater Festival in Massachusetts, and Bruce Paltrow, who produced you know, many TV shows, was up there because his wife Blythe Danner was an actress in the company. She wasn't in my play, anyway, he was about to start this series, St. Elsewhere. And he said, with Blythe's encouragement, he said, "Tom, why don't you come out to LA and write an episode?" And I was like, television? I'm a playwright. I mean, you know, the ego of youth, right? And I was like, poo. And he said, you will make, I think at the time, the Writers Guild minimum was $12,500 to write one episode. It's since obviously gone up, since now it's been a long time. But at that point, the idea of earning $12,500 was astounding, because my average income was about $5,000.
Sure.
For everything I was doing to make money. So suddenly all of my prejudice against television disappeared.
Sure.
And off I went to Hollywood. And again, I've been very lucky, very blessed to have mentored, because Bruce Paltrow literally taught me not only how to write for television, but also how to produce for television. And I wrote a script. He was extremely critical of it, but very nurturing. And then he said, "I want you to write another," and there I was, and here I am.
And you've worked on some real seminal TV series. We have Oz, we have Homicide, St. Elsewhere. My brother and I, when we played the piano when we were younger, was like our favorite recital piece to play, the theme from St. Elsewhere, and City on a Hill, and many, many others. Is there a favorite project that you've worked on?
Oddly enough, they're like children, and you don't ever want to say out loud who's your favorite. I would say that sometimes the ones that don't go, you write a script and the network will pass on it, or you write a script and you shoot the pilot and the network will pass on it. Sometimes those are the ones you feel most like it's an unfulfilled possibility, and so those are some of my favorites too. But I won't name any of them either. Just
Well, that's great, one of the reasons we do this series is for our young alums and our students to have a sense of what are the possibilities, in life, because we have alums all over the place who are doing wonderful things. What kind of advice would you give a young person today who's just, starting out in his career?
in as a writer?
In any career, yeah,
Right.
just really, but sure, as a writer too.
Well, I can only do it through the lens of a writer, because that's been my life experience. But I think, there's a passage in the Bible, and I'm not a biblical scholar, and I can't tell you where it is, but the quote is, "I am not called to be successful. I am called to be faithful." And I took that to heart a long, long time ago, because especially in Hollywood, you can very much get seduced by success. The how much your car cost, how big was your house, what was the fancy restaurant that nobody could get into that you got into last night. And as you're there and you're earning, that my first year in Hollywood, I earned more money than my father had earned in his whole lifetime.
Sure.
It's and we're talking about a guy who earned $5,000 the year before. So the money is coming, and I won an Emmy, and you start to go like, well, look at me, I'm hot, I'm a golden boy. And I had in Los Angeles a dark night of the soul, where I was literally like, either today you say, okay, this is going to be what I want, all this superficial stuff, or you're going to go back to New York and scrub floors if you have to, because you need to be the man you are, as opposed to the man they want you to be. And it was and my wife Sagan was incredibly helpful to me in being honest with myself, and also making the right choice, which was I came home. I came back east.
This last year has been a crazy year for a lot of people. What has it been like in the sort of television industry? What has COVID done, or how has it changed sort of how you operate on a daily basis?
Well, we shot once the state of New York reopened after the lockdown. We started shooting. This was like in September, and we my line producer Michelle Giordano and I had to come up with the protocols, because at that point you were getting mixed information from everybody: the state, the federal government, the actors union, the directors union, the plumbing union. Everybody was in disagreement what the protocols would be. So we had to invent our own. Basically, this is what we're going to do. And I will say to you, again, I've been doing this a long time. Shooting the second season of City on a Hill was the most stressful time of my life, because I, number one, wanted everyone to be healthy. Number two, I wanted to keep everyone employed, because everybody wanted to come back to work, because everybody needed the money. And number three, I wanted to make sure that the creative people could take creative risks. And unfortunately, the three of those things don't necessarily jive. They don't necessarily go together. So, so it was stressful. And, you know, last year I had a dark beard. And
Well, tell us a little bit about the future. Last question. Like, what does the future hold for Tom Fontana? I know you're working on some series. I know you're working on a graphic novel. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about some of the exciting projects you're working on?
Sure. Well, right now we're developing the stories for the third season of City on a Hill, which we do for Showtime, which will premiere in March of 2022. I'm also in the midst of writing a graphic novel for DC, an origin story of the Superman legend, which I have to say, I'm having so much fun doing that because it's like my inner 12-year-old boy is like, yeah. I'm writing a Superman comic book. Look at me, look at me, look at me, you know. Because I used to be one of those kids who would count my pennies every week to you know, to spend the 12 cents or whatever it costs to buy the new issue. And then the other thing I'm doing is I'm writing a drama series for Audible, which like writing the graphic novel is so outside my comfort zone because I'm used to when I'm writing of seeing the visual. Mm-hmm. And with Audible, there is only sound. There's voices and there's sound effects. So it's great, you know, for an old man like me to have to sort of put aside everything I've learned and sort of start new, you know. But hopefully I'm not going to screw it up too much. No. And they seem happy so far. So
that's great. And don't forget, being open to growth is a very Ignatian principle. So I just want to thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I know you're a very busy person, but you've made Canisius High School very proud, and we're very happy to support your projects. And we look forward to hearing more from Tom Fontana, and we look forward to seeing you live and in person at the Father's Term Luncheon this fall.
Yes, I'll be there.
Great. Thanks again, Tom, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.